I'm so glad you're here. These geometric storms have been playing havoc with everybody I know, but they have settled somewhat. There's an eerie calm to our realm at the moment with blue skies. It's all a bit odd. I know it's filtering into your realm too, I hear. There's a strange electricity in the air that no one can quite put their finger on. Well, there are a couple of sayings that we fairies use that do filter down into your realm too, such as always darkest before dawn and the calm before the storm. Well, I think change is upon us, and it won't be long before we see that change. But it can only be a good thing. Now, let us find out what Thimble's been up to. I know she's left the Elvian realm. Goodness knows where she's going to go. Do hope she's okay. Interesting. A solitary fairy cannot this world withstand without the comfort of their fellow clan. Fairies alone wither with the moons that rise here hence. Fairies alone wither when left to their own defence. Now, I happen to know that that's taken from one of the very old manuscripts written about 100 moons before Rosebud's reign. Yes, I am a know-it-all. So that's an interesting thing to have at the beginning of this chapter. Probably making reference to Blossom. Anyway, Thimble had come to the other side of the Elvian realm through snow, ice and rain. Her new coat had given her much protection, and her thoughts of her new-found friendships had given her much comfort on the cold nights. Finally, at the edge of the valley, she saw the sun rise over the beautiful, lush grasslands of the opulent Opals, and she prepared her thoughts for venturing into another unknown land. She knew that this would have to be the path that Blossom had taken, as Sonica had told Thimble that he had spoken in great detail to her about the beautiful lands that were at the edge of his realm. However, there were few occupants here, and the ones that did dwell in the beautiful lush terrain were mainly harmless water nymphs and sprats. And even though many others had ventured through this land, very little had been documented about it to help Thimble at all in her travels. Dear. She could only hope. Yes, hope is a wonderful thing. Right. She could only hope that she met somebody along the way that may be able to help her in her search. Another day and another new land, Twig, said Thimble, pulling her wand out of her bag with a mirror, so that she could blast her face with some lip gloss to mark the occasion, when she paused for thought. Actually, Twig, don't really think I want any lip gloss today, but thank you. And she popped a baffled Twig back into her bag. There suddenly seemed too many more important things for Thimble to be thinking about other than the way she looked. Well, quite right. And the change in the approaching moon cycles was certainly one of them. For now, in the back of Thimble's mind, were the thoughts that with every changing moon brought her another step closer to having to go back to her valley without Blossom and become Till's reluctant bride. Goodness me, no. I know. Failure had not been an option Thimble dare think about at any point during her journey. But suddenly alone in her own company again, she found herself pondering on what would happen to her if she did have to live the rest of her days as a fairy royal. Dear, this was a consuming thought. Well, yes, I can understand that. And Thimble took her eye off the path to take in her beautiful surroundings. I don't think she wants to do that. As the sun rose higher in the sky, the ground around her feet warmed, and for the first time in quite a while, she no longer needed the protection of the wool coat Sonica had given her. So she tied it up with rope so she could carry it like a bag over her shoulder. The trees were tall, with big hanging leaves that wafted the scent of all the flowers, which covered the grassland for miles and miles. There was the constant sound of running water from the many waterfalls and fountains that sprang up from holes in the ground, providing plenty of nourishment for all the opal's wondrous plants. It really was quite astonishingly beautiful, and Thimble found herself wandering from one plant to another, taking in their glorious colours. She was in such a daydream, thinking about home and the Queen and how she wished Prunus were here to see all the plants that he'd managed to grow in their natural habitat, that she was not in the slightest bit aware of where she was treading and had completely forgotten to be careful when suddenly there was a loud whooshing noise behind her and Thimble felt her feet leave the floor. Goodness! I know! As she looked down to see what had happened, she could see that she was dangling from a large plant which seemed to have her in some kind of sticky grip. Even Twig was stuck fast to one of the bright pink petals, and between them they could not move a single inch. "Goodness!" exclaimed Thimble. "I must be more careful." But it was far too late for that. And then she remembered Perry's map and his words of warning. "Beware the sticky bowbell plant." Thimble gave out a big sigh. "I think we might have found ourselves the bowbell plant, Twig." And she began trying to think of a way to get out of the messy goo she had carelessly got herself caught in. Really, it felt like hours had passed, and still Thimble was unable to get more than one arm free. Oh dear. Midday had been and gone, and soon it would be starting to get dark again. Thimble certainly didn't fancy the idea of spending the night in a bowbell plant. And besides that, she could not afford to spend her precious time in such an awkward, inconvenient, and may I say ridiculous manner, these predicaments that she seems to get herself in. She wriggled a bit and felt her other arm come free, but then the other arm got completely stuck again, and the goo seeping from the centre of the plant seemed stickier than ever. "Goodness and bother!" exclaimed a frustrated Thimble, who wriggled some more. "I cannot be stuck here for days. Haven't even completed my quest. Haven't found Blossom yet. Oh!" she said, looking down at Twig, who was also now looking a little worried. Oh, how Thimble wished she'd paid more attention to the warnings in Periwinkle's map. But there was no time for reflecting on what might have been, and she had to somehow think of a way to free her and Twig. She was very stuck indeed, though, and had just managed to wriggle one foot free when she heard a very strange noise behind her. But not being able to turn her head to see, all she could do was listen. "Poor Bowbell, you seem to have acquired yourself some unwanted and unwelcome visitors," came a voice to the side of Thimble, who was now trying to stretch her neck so she could have a look at who was speaking. But she felt like she'd been glued in position and simply just couldn't turn to see. I seem to have got myself rather stuck," said an embarrassed Thimble. "I was just wondering if you might be able to help me at all. Please?" she said hopefully. "Oh, those are the calling birds. Well, that seems quite odd. They've come around really soon. Yes, I know, I can hear you. These timelines are changing, I believe. Time to get back to my realm, I think, with haste to find out what's going on. Anyway, I'm sure you'll want to come back next time and find out what's happening with Thimble. She seems to have got herself not only stuck, but found somebody else in the realm, which is quite unusual because that certainly didn't sound like a nymph or a sprat. They don't speak. Anyway, I'm sure you'll want to come back next time. Now, take care. And remember, don't stop believing, especially in you."